Hi, and welcome back to Jen and Dan's Natural Healing with Plants, the go-to podcast for holistic health seekers looking to harness the power of nature for health and healing. I'm Jen, a passionate health educator, a whole food plant-based culinary coach, and a master herbalist. And I'm here with Dan, an exercise specialist and a wonderful master herbalist. Together, we dive into the world of natural healing, bringing you a wealth of knowledge and practical advice. We draw from both traditional wisdom and modern science with herbs and foods to help you achieve optimal health. So today we're talking about one of our favorite foods, but we're also talking about insulin resistance and some of the most powerful foods that support healthy blood sugar naturally. And so we want to talk about the controversy around these foods and why we agree and disagree with a lot of things that we're told. So how should we begin, Dan?
Well, I guess we should begin with just how many people are metabolically unwell, right? We talk about that a
Yes.
lot.
93% of Americans are metabolic, I can't say it,
It's-
metabolically unwell.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, 93%. So 7% are 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 metabolically well, which mean and that's following really loose guidelines. And so probably even less. And so that's really scary. That's really, really scary. So the majority, 93%, are not eating in a way that supports optimal health. Or there are other things that are also associated with insulin resistance. It's not just the food, but the fact that 93%, there's something wrong.
And so a lot of people may think, well, why does that matter? What is being metabolically unhealthy? I mean, is that going to hurt me? I mean, what's the big deal?
Yeah, absolutely. Related to heart disease, liver disease, as well as diabetes and blood sugar issues.
And I also say they're saying now that it actually may be a factor in developing dementia and Alzheimer,
Alzheimer's. Yeah, yeah. I didn't
which
even think
is
about that.
prevalent,
Right.
prevalent, yeah.
Yes, yeah, metabolic, right. You have to have strong metabolic health to fend off all of these things. And I would say cancer as well.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And also, a lot of people are trying to lose weight and they have a hard time. Well, if your blood sugar isn't stable, you're going to have a hard time losing weight.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So, today we're going to talk about some of the foods we can eat to help with this problem and some other changes because, we're not just a one-trick pony, but
Right. Right. And so sometimes we have to go back and look. A lot of people talk about traditional diets. And so like paleo and all that. So in paleo, they say don't eat any beans. How do they know people didn't eat beans back then? I don't know. And maybe, if we did look at um, the studies, archaeological studies, maybe, is that the right word? Maybe we would find out that they didn't eat beans, but I find it really hard to believe that they didn't,
well,
right?
I remember when McDougal was alive, he was talking about the studies of our ancestors, and he said they ate a lot of starch.
Right. Yeah. Well, when
A
you
lot of
look at
tubers.
tribal nations that still exist today, that's what they eat, right? Lots of
Yeah.
tubers. I'm just not sure where the beans fit in.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's an interesting question. I wonder. Now I want to research to see
I
how
know. Now I have
long.
to dig in some more. Yes. Yes. Right.
How
Right.
long we've been eating beans?
How long have humans been eating beans? We got to do some research there.
Yes.
So modern research is helping to explain why eating beans can support insulin sensitivity, gut health, inflammation, satiety. I know I feel a lot better when I eat beans, as well as long-term metabolic health. And I have to say, a lot of it goes back to gut health and the microbiome. There's so many nutrients that are in beans that we don't find in other foods that are so supportive of the healthy microbiome and increasing the diversity, but also helping with that intestinal lining as well, so that you have strong integrity of the tight junctions and things like that due to the nutrients, the resistant starches, as well as as a lot of different starches in beans or fibers, a lot of different fibers, especially resistant starches, which are so important.
Yes, you've probably heard of the Blue Zones by now if you're listening. Is it Dan? I can't remember his
Buettner,
last name.
Dan
Buettner.
Buettner.
He talks about this. He studied extensively the Blue Zones, and these are places in the world where people they live a lot longer, and but they live healthy. They're healthy up into their 90s, some of them.
Right.
They all have beans as part of their diet.
Yes, yes. And like I said, and so not only does that help with the gut health, when we work on building the gut health and increasing the health of the gut and that gut lining and all that, that helps with inflammation because we have inflammatory responses that occur in the gut. We have immune responses that occur in the gut. And so it all circles back to that area as well. And so we want to dig into a lot of this today. We want to talk about insulin resistance. We want to talk about fiber and why that's so important. I think that we need to really have a rise in fiber and, go against the protein thing. For me, I think fiber is the most important thing, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about plant-based proteins and herbs that help with metabolic health, and then why we tend to go back. We're all about natural healing and traditional methods in healing and repairing the body and resilience and regeneration and things like that, and why beans are important for that. But before we begin, I want you to remember that this podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. This is for education and entertainment. Hopefully, you're entertained as well. But make sure you consult with your qualified healthcare practitioner before making changes to diet, supplements, herbs, medications, etc. So first, let's talk about what is insulin resistance.
Well, it's when you eat something and your body has to release insulin to push the sugar that from the food into your cells. So when you start to become resistant to insulin, your body releases insulin, it tries to push the sugar into the cell, but all the sugar is not able to get into the cell anymore, and some of it stays behind in your bloodstream. And when it's in your bloodstream too long, it can start to cause damage to your organs over time. Is
Right.
that pretty good summary? I
Yes.
don't know. You know more than I do.
No, I wouldn't say that. But yeah, so we have these cell receptors. We have all these different cell receptors for different things. And every cell has these receptors to receive the insulin. Insulin is kind of like you have to have a special little car to drive from the blood into the cell. And the insulin receptors are what allow that car to pass in through. And those receptors can get damaged. And when they are damaged, usually from high fat, then or high stress, then the insulin, that little car can't get from the bloodstream into the cells. And so we end up with that elevated insulin. The blood's not going to the cell. We feel low energy because we need that sugar in the cells to have our energy. But when that insulin doesn't carry it through, the blood sugar stays too high in the bloodstream and the insulin stays too high. The pancreas starts saying, hey, why is this sugar not getting moved into the cells? So it starts secreting even more insulin. And so that can start leading to pancreatic issues or enzyme issues. Maybe we're not secreting like we're supposed to. That's a weird word. And then that increases inflammation because when you think about sugar, we've seen sugar crystals, it increases inflammation along the blood vessels, blood vessels and arteries, which leads to damage along those arteries. We're tired because we're not getting the sugar in the cells. When insulin is out, we start storing more things where our body starts feeling like it's in danger. We have more fat storage. And then we're tired. We're tired. We're storing more fat. We're having these sugar cravings because the body doesn't know why the sugar is not getting into the cell. So we're eating more sugar, increasing more inflammation. And then we ended up with elevated triglycerides. We're tired. We have damaged blood vessels, and it's a vicious cycle.
Very vicious. And then, I mean, not to be negative, but people they can develop full-blown diabetes if this keeps going on.
Right. Or fatty liver disease. So you
Mm.
have fatty liver disease, diabetes, heart disease, any of those things can occur if we have insulin resistance for too long. And does that happen one time? No, it happens over time. Damage occurs slowly over time, and it's very sneaky. We don't realize our blood sugar is going up. There are some symptoms, we'll talk about those later on, that you do have some insulin resistance. But having your doctor run the appropriate panels is important too. Knowing your fasting insulin and your A1C. I cannot tell you how many clients I have to teach to advocate for themselves to get the doctor to run it. And if they don't, then I just have to have my own workarounds so they can get it tested. But those numbers are so important, and the fact that you have to argue with the doctor to even get those numbers is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. They
Yes,
like to wait until you're a diabetic. Then, oh, okay, now
right.
we'll just give you some metformin or some.
Right, in GLP-1s. So you already have damage that has occurred. Like,
Mhm.
let's find out before you have that damage so we can reverse it and prevent the damage, right? But instead, in the medical system, they don't do anything until you already have the damage. We don't want that to happen because when you do have that, then you start losing your vision, you start getting neuropathy, you have poor circulation through the body, and so much more. And so we want to stop it before that happens. So work with someone who is knowledgeable about insulin resistance. That's critical. That is critical. Yes. And so what we want to do is focus on plant-based proteins that include fiber. Like I said, I think fiber is probably one of the most important things for us to eat. Plant-based proteins, beans are very high in plant-based proteins as well as having carbohydrates. Fiber is in carbohydrates. We have to have those carbohydrates for that fiber. We also need phytonutrients, that's plant nutrients. Sometimes I'll talk about different chemicals that are in plant foods. That's what we need, those phytonutrients. Beans, very high in minerals and B vitamins. And how many of us are low in B vitamins? We need to get our B vitamins from our foods, as well as the resistant starches that feed those microbes in the gut. So they're strong and healthy and vibrant, and they crowd out any of those that are harmful to us that we don't want in there. You've heard about people having E. coli or H. pylori or any of those. We want to have vibrant, healthy bacterias in our body to help crowd those things out and keep them manageable and under control.
So one of the ways we're going to talk about how it helps with blood sugar, the fiber in the beans.
Hmm.
And this is very interesting. The fiber, it helps slow down your glucose absorption. That way, when you eat something, say you eat something with no fiber, say you eat some white rice, your blood sugar is going to go way up to a peak and then it's going to fall. And then you'll feel tired, right? A lot of
Right.
people. And so if you eat beans, it has a lot of fiber, so your blood sugar stays more stable. And there's also a second meal effect that Gregor talks about.
Yeah, so does Furman. Furman talks about it too.
Herman talks about that too. So
Yes.
they're saying if you have beans for breakfast, then when you have lunch, your blood sugar will still be more controlled because of the beans you have for breakfast.
Yes. And
So if you eat beans a lot, your blood sugar is going to be more stable.
yeah, Furman talks about that too. Like at dinner, you eat beans at dinner, then your breakfast the next day is going to be, you're going to be better able to control your blood sugar at breakfast too.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I love it.
And of course, we talk about gut health a lot. You have to have fiber. Fiber, and there's a thing now. There's a diet out there. People are saying that fiber is bad for you. You have no need for fiber. This is a big lie
Yes, flat out lie.
because your gut bacteria, that's one of the few things is that it's keeping you healthy. It's so important to stay healthy, and it has to eat, and it eats fiber.
Yes. And sugar. So if you are eating too much sugar, then you're going to have those pathogenic bacterias as well as fungus or yeast and things like that. So we don't want to eat sugar. We want to eat fiber to feed the beneficial ones. Yes, and they ferment the fiber into short chain fatty acids, which you may have heard of things like butyrate. And so
Mhm.
we need those in the body to help with the healthy gut lining, to help with that microbiome, to help with reducing inflammation, and to help improve insulin sensitivity. We want insulin sensitivity. We want those receptors to be sensitive to it so that it draws it in. It's like saying, come on, Carl, let's drive that sugar into the cell.
Yes, and once you get your body sensitive to insulin, your health is going to improve tremendously. Your body's
Yeah.
going to start to look better. You'll start to you lose fat that you've been trying to get rid of. Your numbers are going to get better. Your blood pressure should go down. Your cholesterol should go down. Triglycerides should go down. If you're, eating a really good diet. I don't know what else. I can't sit there and say everything you're eating, but
No.
to get your insulin stable, you're gonna have to eat pretty good, like we talk about.
Right. Whole food, plant-based, and greens. Greens in as many meals as you can get them in. And so greens, eating the beans with the greens is the best thing you can do. So putting beans on a salad, putting beans in a wrap with greens or sprouts, putting beans in a soup that have other greens and greens and beans, putting them together is awesome for the body.
Yeah, sometimes my mother, she likes me to take her to this place. It's a barbecue joint in Gaston. It's called Pruitt's. And you would think, why is a whole food plant-based guy? What can I eat there? Well, they
I know.
have,
I'm like, what are you talking about? Don't tell people you go to a barbecue place.
yeah, but guess what? It has beans and greens all the time. It's a menu. I have beans and greens. So I get the pinto beans
Uh-huh.
and the turnip greens. And sometimes they have what is it? Anyway, I get plant-based meals at barbecue joints, okay?
Yeah, that's amazing.
It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be that
we don't
hard.
have
It's
those
just
in Georgia. I'm surprised they do in Alabama.
you don't.
Not that I'm aware of. Of course, I have had barbecue mushrooms. Yes.
So I just think, I mean, a lot of people when we're talking about this are like, how can I ever go plant-based? It's so hard. It's just a learning. You just have to learn about
Right.
it. And,
Right. And no, I honestly think that a lot of people fail at eating 100% whole food plant-based because they're afraid of the carbs and they're afraid of eating beans.
well, see, that's the issue, right? Because I don't like to look at beans as carbs. For me, when somebody says carbs, I'm thinking rice, I'm thinking pasta, bread. Those are the things that are gonna get you out of whack.
Crackers,
But
cookies.
a bean has fiber, it
Mhm.
has protein, fat, and carbohydrates. So it's a food like we're talking about. This food,
Mhm.
it will digest very slowly. It
Mhm.
keeps your blood sugar very stable, like we're talking about.
Mhm.
And the study showing how beans help your sugar regulate, even if you have a piece of bread with beans, it helps the body handle that blood sugar spike more efficiently.
Wow. Now, I do recommend that people try it. Like, you wearing a CGM, which I do want you to know, CGM will measure your blood sugar if you're familiar. There's a continuous glucose monitor that checks your blood glucose. It actually doesn't check the blood glucose. It doesn't go into the blood cells. But anyway, it monitors your sugar and it doesn't look at insulin. So a lot of times people are fooled. They don't realize like dairy raises insulin. It's a known fact. Dairy raises insulin. And so you may be thinking, I'm keeping my blood sugar under control eating cheese all day long, which your blood sugar doesn't move if you're eating cheese. However, your insulin is going up. And so I want you to be aware of that. So wearing a CGM is not the end all be all going to tell you everything you need to know. All right.
I'm glad you brought that up
Mhm.
because these low carb diets, like carnivore or keto,
Mhm.
and initially it might seem like it helps your blood sugar, but over time it
Right.
turns you into a diabetic because it's so full of fat
Right. It
that your
damages
cells get blocked.
receptors.
You know that theory. It's not even a theory. I mean, was it Dr. Neil Bernard? They
Right.
actually did studies
Right.
showing where if you eat too much saturated fat, it actually can block your cells from the blood sugar getting into them.
Yeah, it damages the cell receptors. So then it's not getting in. So you don't know it because you're not seeing that glucose move, but the fat's clogging those receptors, your insulin's going up, creating damage, and other things occur with that as well. So yeah, very good point.
And I heard that people that are on a high fat, low carb diet for a long time, if they go take a oral glucose test,
Hmm.
they all fail it
Wow. Yeah,
because their body cannot accept the sugar anymore.
right. But what did want to say was I do recommend that if you're new to eating beans or you haven't been eating beans or you're curious if beans are right for you, um, They probably are, but you may have to adjust your quantity to see how
Mhm.
your body's responding. And so I would put a CGM on and eat. Now, I'm not your one-on-one coach. I do not know you personally. I do not diagnose, treat. And so the study about whether or not putting one on is right for you. I have to cover my ass here. But putting on a CGM and then seeing how much you can tolerate. Like if I eat a cup of beans by themselves, my blood sugar is probably going to go too high. Yes, it includes lots of fiber, but my blood sugar may go too high. If I eat a half a cup of beans with some greens, a lot, large salad or a large amount of steamed greens, then my blood sugar might not move a lot at all. Or if I'm going to be eating those beans on something that doesn't have a lot of greens, then maybe I can only tolerate a quarter of a cup of beans with those. But I still want to include the beans. I don't want to just say, hey, beans spike my blood sugar. I'm not going to eat them. There's so many things in the beans that are so important for our body that I'm going to find ways to eat them. And so we'll talk about easy ways to get them in there, but you just need to find out the tolerable amount for you. And if you don't eat beans, you want to start slow and gradually increase because you don't have those microbes to break down those fermentable starches, which can create gas and bloating. So it doesn't mean you can't eat beans. No, it just means you need to start low and let those things grow. If you've ever had a garden, like I live on a farm, so for me it's a little bit different. But if you ever plant something in the garden, you don't really have a lot of bugs, right? And then as it grows, like we grow cucumbers, all of a sudden we have cucumber beetles if we're not monitoring things and giving the plant the nutrients it needs. Were the cucumber beetles there before? No, they were attracted to the cucumbers. So the same thing happens to us. We start eating the beans, we have to attract those bugs, which is kind of creepy. It's like, where do these little bugs come from, right? And bugs is not the right word, but those they start to grow. They find where they need to go and they start to grow, and that's what's so important. So start low and slow with adding beans.
I'm glad you added that. There's certain foods you can combine together that actually helps the blood sugar response. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yes. And usually it's greens. If you add greens to most of your foods, that's going to help with that blood sugar response.
But
Yeah.
on the same note, beans, they're dry beans are rich in magnesium. If we'll go into that thing, they're saying that 80% of Americans are deficient in magnesium.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much everyone needs magnesium. Now, magnesium is hard to absorb in the body. And so
Yeah.
a lot of times supplements are necessary. Once again, do your own due diligence studying that. But we're running out of time. Let's talk about some easy ways to get beans into the diet. Like for me, the easiest ones are lentils. You don't really need to soak them. I soak mine still for a few hours, but it's not necessary to soak them. I still feel like doing that just to remove any enzyme inhibitors, anything that is going to prevent me from absorbing the vitamins and minerals that are in there. I want to soak them. But they're very, very high in protein as well as fiber, and they only take 15-20 minutes to cook.
And so recipes like soups are good. Lentil soups. I mean,
Yes,
I do lentil bowls. Like for example, I have some lentils, and then I have some salad greens, some tomatoes, some olives, whatever, some avocado. I mean, I love that. I love
me too.
bowls
Or
with
roasted
beans.
vegetables. Yeah, roasted vegetables with beans on top. Yeah,
It's
awesome.
so good.
Yes. Yeah. Or blending them in and making them a dip. Like I'll put them in a food processor with a bunch of different spices, garlic and spices, and make like a Mexican dip or an Italian dip, but some like a hummus. Hummus is usually made with chickpeas, but you could use any kind of bean to make a hummus.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you're worried about it being too high in carbs, you can add some zucchini to it, peel the zucchini, or even cauliflower, or even broccoli. I mean, you can add vegetables to your hummus, all in the food processor, blend it all up, and then you have veggies in there too to help with that blood sugar as well. And then you could also buy edamame. And so a lot of people are afraid of soy. There's so many benefits to soy, which we'll talk about in another episode. But edamame is buy organic when you can, but is a complete protein, meaning it contains all the amino acids that we need. Not that that's something we need to be concerned about, but people talk about that. As well as very high in fiber and lower on the glycemic load.
Yes. I do like to get edamame from time to time. It's in the shells and it's really good.
Yeah. So before we go, let's talk about some herbs that help with insulin sensitivity.
Well, okay, so everybody hears about cinnamon.
Yes.
And I can't remember, like we're talking about, but there is what is the form that we need to take? Do you remember?
No. Was it sea lion cinnamon?
Maybe that's the one, yeah.
I think it is. Yeah, so there's one form's better than the other. It is, so there are a lot of studies came out recently about how cinnamon's being sold. It's not actually really cinnamon. And so
Yeah.
look that up and make sure you're actually using cinnamon. One of my go-tos is fenugreek. I love fenugreek. It is wonderful for helping with blood sugar. Um,
Ginger.
Yes, ginger's another one. Ginger and turmeric are wonderful for helping with insulin sensitivity because they help reduce inflammation. And so they are wonderful as well as bitter lemon, black cumin or black seed oil. Those things are also really great for helping with insulin resistance. And
Also, I gotta throw in amla, or it's amla or Indian gooseberry. This one is really good.
yes,
Yes.
very anti-inflammatory, very antioxidant. Yeah, that's an awesome one.
Hmm.
Yes, and then there's other foods too that we like to include every day to help with inflammation and insulin, restoring that insulin sensitivity. And things like leafy greens, like we already mentioned. Eat dark leafy greens as often as you can. Does that mean you have to have a salad? No, you could have some sauteed spinach. You could have some steamed greens. Like you said at the barbecue place, you had turnip greens. Is that right?
Yep, turnips.
Yeah, turnips. You could have sauteed kale, even kale chips.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so any way you can get those dark leafy greens. Ground flaxseed. It does need to be ground, but keep it stored in your freezer. You can buy the whole ones and grind them in like a coffee grinder, but keep them stored in the freezer because they are a very fragile oil, but wonderful for inflammation, but also for helping with the microbiome because it gets that gelatinous texture for coating the intestines and helping with inflammation as well as chia seeds. Chia seeds are basil seeds. Basil seeds also can all do that. So I love those. Those polyphenols, so very colorful things like our berries, pomegranate, beets. You know, those dark, brightly colored foods are also so important, as well as our cruciferous vegetables: broccoli, cauliflower, cabbages, Brussels sprouts, kale, like we mentioned before.
Oh, that's really good. And also, I'll end with this. It's not just because I'm exercise. We're both into exercise, but you have to move and you need to build muscle. Muscle is another, it's a tissue that will help your body become insulin sensitive.
Yes, and not just walking. You have to put some strain on those muscles.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, strength training. Strength training. Work with someone to strength train, but also to recover, making sure you're not lifting weights every day of the week, but having time to recover and rest as well. And what we were talking about before we got on the call, which we do need to start recording our conversations before the call, was 100% of my clients need to work on stress management. And we don't realize how much stress does to the body, and even as far as interfering with insulin receptors. And so, as well as many other parts of our body, we all, myself included, need to work. We could all improve on stress management.
Yes, I mean, no matter how good we're doing with our diet and our exercise, if we're stressed out all the time, good
Yeah,
luck.
right, right. It's you're setting yourself up against yourself. That was a weird way of saying that, but yeah.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
it one step forward, two steps back? Is that the one? Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. So our final takeaway, the foods that people fear: beans, lentils, peas, they can be some of the most healing foods. They can be helpful for blood sugar, for our metabolic health when they're eating in their whole traditional form, not processed. We don't eat them highly processed. We want to eat them with dark leafy greens and other whole foods, foods you find in the produce department. So we want to return back to simple, fiber-rich plant foods that humans have been eating for generations. And we'll also do our own little study to see when did humans start eating plants? Anyway, thank you for joining us today on Jen and Dan's Natural Healing with Plants. We hope that this episode encouraged you to think more about the myths surrounding carbohydrates and blood sugar. And I want you to know that you can find more about Dan at danthenaturalman.com and find out more about me at Holistic Jen. That's with a WHOLISTICJEN.com. And until next time, keep learning, healing, and trusting the wisdom of nature. We'll see you again next week.